Hello GameMakers, this is GameMaker Rob, and in this episode we fix a few bugs that we created in the last one, and we also now have the ability to load the correct map based on which world point we move to. And we also have a story state system, which means we can have different maps loading at different times on the same world point. So let's get started. Okay, so we have a couple of bugs to fix. Mainly some sprites weren't being drawn correctly. We're going to go into the draw event of OBJ editor, and in the draw cursor region we just want to update or add a few lines in the mission region. So we're going to check to see if the mouse sprite is not equal to spawn tiles. If it's not, then we are drawing a unit, and to get to display the correct facing, we want the image index to be 0, but we want the sprite to be the mouse sprite plus whatever mouse index is. That's what's going to give us our west, north, east, south. So if image index is 0 and the sprite is SBR ISO actor idle west, then it's going to display this one. If we move the scroll button, it'll go to north, east, south, and back to west. So that's what this is going to do. This line here was added, so if it is the ISO spawn tiles, then we want mouse sprite, mouse index. That's how we want it to work. That's it for the draw event. And then editor draw GUI. Oops. Yeah. So I had a crash when I was switching maps. So all I've done is in the draw mission editor GUI in this region here, I did a check to make sure that list isn't undefined. So as long as it's not undefined, then do the rest of this. And this one here, you don't strictly need it, but it's nice to be able to see the conversation index as well as the current map number. This is useful because we are going to now say this map is going to be for this world point, this map's going to be for that world point. So being able to see the map number is it's almost necessary really, otherwise you're guessing. So that's what this is for. And also another bug was so in load map, SCR load map, we need to, so if unique conversation index is greater than 0 after this for loop has happened, then we've already got spawn tiles in, but we want to increase unique conversation index by 1 for the next spawn tile. If we don't do that, then we're going to end up with 2 units with the same conversation index, which means it's no longer unique, which kind of defeats the objective. So we've got that in there. If it's if this value is 0, then we don't need to increase it. That's why we have this check in place. And then the other one is in SCR create new map. We just want to reset this value to 0 for every new map. And that takes care of all the bug fixes. Okay, so now before we get into coding, I just want to explain why we are going to do what we're going to do, what is supposed to be happening. So if we look at the world map, the way I'm going to have this happen is when a player is moving around, let's get rid of this grid. When he's moving around, he's going to be going from point to point, and we are going to want different things to happen depending on where he is. So the way I have my story set up is at the start I want a cutscene to play. So before he can even move, he's going to be going to a map where a cutscene plays out. like a story scene, sorry. And then when he moves to this location, we're going to have a different map, and it's going to be the first battle. And then when he moves to this location, we're going to load a different map for the second battle. And when he moves to this location, there's going to be a third battle with a different map. And then I was thinking, when he goes back to here to say I've done my quest, there's going to be a final battle. So we're going to have a story state, which changes after the player has done things. Mainly after story scenes and battles, the story state is going to be increased, and this is going to allow us to have different maps for the same world point based on the story state. So at the very start of the game, this world point is going to have a story scene map play out, and then the story state is going to increase, and you'll never see that cutscene again. And then when you've done all the battles and you go back here, you are going to have a different map with, or maybe the same map but with a battle inside of it rather than the conversation for the story. And also, when you're moving between these world points, once you've fought the battle, you're not going to fight them again. It doesn't stop you having the option for random battles, when you're moving around the world, but we only want the battles to play out once, so you're not repeating them. And after the story scene plays out in this first world point, I want to have like a shop the player can go to buy items and recruit men, that kind of thing, which will be active for every story state apart from the first and the last. So you can go here, fight, shop, go here, fight, shop, etc., etc. Yeah, I think that's it for the explanation of why we're going to do stuff. So we need to know, for every story state, we need to know which map is going to be loaded and whether it's going to be a battle or a story scene or a shop. So that's what I've designed everything around, basically. So we go into obj main, create event. So we're going to go into the states region first. So we've got a new enumerator. This is my story, basically. So at the very start, we have a story scene, then we have a battle, second battle, third battle, and then I haven't decided whether I want there to be a fourth battle yet, so I don't have a fourth one, but if I did, then it would just go here. So this is how I'm gonna plan everything out, and then, like I said, each map is either going to be a story scene, a battle, or a shop. And this enumerator is going to say per world point what map is going to show up per state, and if there is a map, what type of map is it. This is going to use this enumerator. So it's going to, map's going to be like 0, 1, 2. That's going to be the map index. Type of map is going to be story scene, battle, or shop. I've got a CSV file that you'll see in a minute. It's going to have all the information, and I'll explain this again. It'll make more sense then. Also, we want to be thinking about how we're going to be saving things between games. It's important to kind of do that before rather than at the very end. So we're going to have a list that's going to keep track of any values that we want to track between saved games. I'm not talking about things like units, because we're going to have a grid that's going to store the information for the player's army and stuff like that, and his equipment and his gear, his levels, all that stuff is going to be saved via a grid. But for things like the story state, where is the player on the map, which direction is the player facing, we want to keep track of that in a single list, and that's what this list is going to be for. I'm not going to worry about most of this for now. I'm not even going to save it, but I'm just going to say, okay, we're going to have a value inside the list, that's going to keep track of the story state, and we're going to set it to a eStory.a debriefing or add a debriefing, which is the same as 0 or 1, sorry. So this is going to equal 1 to start with. And that's it for this region. And this is a new region. Originally I was going to have like an array with lists that we use to set a map and a map type, but I figured it was just a lot easier to have it on a CSV, because especially if you're going to make a decent sized game, you don't want to do all of that inside the create event. So we're just going to load a CSV, which is this one for me. Oops. Open externally. So on this side, this is going to be the story states. So this row is a debriefing, first battle, second battle, third battle. As you can see, on the first story state, there's no map for any of the world points, because as soon as we finish this, the story state is going to change. And then on the very first world point, this map and map type is going to be a shop. So you can see map type here, this 0 means it's going to be a story scene, and 2 means it's going to be a shop. And then this is world point 1, so the second world point, and this is where the first battle is going to happen. And then the story state is going to advance again, and we're going to have the second battle here, and then the story state is going to advance again, and we're going to have the third battle here. If I'm going to have a fourth and final battle, it's going to be going here, and the rest of these will be -1. So I figured it would be a lot easier to have all of the information for all of the points and all of the story states on one grid, which is why I've got this here. How we are going to access the correct information is going to be based on the path points. So you see here, the first world point has a path point of 0. This one has a path point of 1, etc. So say for example, we want to access the map for the first path point. We're going to do path point times 2. So 0 times 2 is here. And then for this one, the second world point has a path point of 1. 1 times 2 is here. So then we would get that information. If we want to know the map type, then we do whatever value we have here plus 1. That's how we get both bits of information. And it's gonna mean we could just have all the information for the maps and map types just in one big block like this. Makes it easier to read. This key is just so we know what number to type for the map type. Makes it easier rather than having to look around in the GameMaker create event. So that's going to be it for the create event of OBJ main. That's setting things up that we need. I thought I would just show you visually the maps that are supposed to load at the correct time. So let's open the CSV as well. So you can see for the first world point with a map index of 2, and here this map is index of 2. So this is the map I want to load. I'm using just the snow tiles for this, but it's supposed to be like a castle with crenellations, and this is supposed to be a table. So there's gonna be like a conversation happening here. I haven't done any more conversations, so don't worry about that right now. I mean, you can do, but I haven't done it for mine yet. It wasn't a priority. So this is going to happen on the first world point, and then The first battle is going to be map 0. So I think there we go. Sorry, this one is map index 0. So this is the first battle. This is the one that does have a conversation. And then the second battle is going to be map 3. Let's find that one here. This is the second battle. And then the final battle is map index 4, which is why there's a 4 there. And then the one that I've skipped is the shop, which is map index 1 here. So this is going to be the shop, a nice grass shop with a grass counter. Awesome. Okay, so now we are going to move. Well, we're going to add an instance of obj test into the world room, because we're just going to take advantage of the draw event inside it. Might as well. We are going to comment out a couple of things though. So here's my obj test, and then in the create event, we are going to comment out this, because we don't want to run this script because it's going to move our view around. We're going to add a new variable called show map. So we only want the test object to draw the map when the player is finished moving. So we're going to be setting this to true or false. True will obviously show the map, and false will not show the map. Then in the step event, we're going to comment out our conversation code, and we are going to have a new bit of code here. Basically, we just want to have the ability to close a map down. So when we press enter, we want to increase the story state by 1. We should have a check in here to see if it's a shop, but for now, because we don't go into the shop, or we only go into the conversations and the battles, it's okay for now. When we press enter, increase story state, close the map, and reset the camera. In the player object, we are going to be setting this to true, so the test object can draw itself, but for now, just add this code in. And then in the draw event, we're going to wrap all of this region inside if show map equals true. And this region is also new. We're going to be drawing a black rectangle. So all this does is it just draws a black rectangle over all of this stuff, so we can't see the player. It's not stopping us moving the player around, so if we clicked while a map was around, we may be able to move. That's something that we'll fix later on. For now, we just want to make sure that we can load the correct map while moving around. So draw a black rectangle, and that's it for the draw event. Draw GUI, yeah, we just want to comment out the draw GUI as well. We don't need it because that's just for the conversation. So once you've done that, make sure the test object is in the room and we can edit the player object. Okay, so obj player. So step event. I've added this code in here because I don't. At the very start of the game, I want to jump into a cutscene. I don't want to allow the player to be moving around first. So I have to skip the idle state out at the very start, which is why we're setting the state to walking. And also, if we check out the walking state, you can see it's asking for mouse over path, which we only set inside idle. So we need to set it here as well. So that's why we're doing this stuff, just so we can jump straight ahead to walking, which we are already at our destination at the very start of the game. So we will load the map straight away. Otherwise, if the story state has passed the first point, then just go to idle as normal. So that's what all this is about, just making sure we can run a cutscene at the start of the game. If you don't have a cutscene at the start of the game, then you don't need this extra code. You can just go straight to idle, basically. And then in walking, so this region here is added. This is what's going to load the correct map, basically. So the first thing we want to do is check what story state we're at, and then we want to find the correct index in our CSV. So column to check equals path point or path point times 2. So for example, if we are on the first world point, this path point is going to equal 0. So we do 0 times 2 is 0. So it's going to give us this column here. If we're on the second world point, path point is 1 times 2 equals 2, which covers this one here. So that's what column to check is going to equal. Then map is going to give us the real value of column to check story state. So straight away, column to check is going to equal 0, and story state is going to equal 1. So 0, 1 will give us 2. So the map index is 2. And then map type equals this value, or this cell, plus 1. So column to check's here, plus 1 is here, and that's going to give us a value of 0. So we've now got our map index and our map type. So we want to check to see if the map type, well, it can be either map or map type. We just want to make sure that they're not -1. So, and it's not a shop. If it's not -1 and it's not a shop, then we want to load the battle or the story scene straight away. We don't want to wait for the player. So going to load the correct map from inside obj test, and we're going to set show map to true for the test object. And we also want to move the camera to the correct position, which is what this does. I don't think there's anything inside the draw event for change. No, that's it. And that's all the code really. So if we run the, let me actually change one thing, because we want to have the game running. So let's run the game. So straight away we've loaded the first map. You can't do anything, there's no conversation that's going to play. So we're just going to press enter. I'm on the world map now. We're going to move to the first location, and a battle map load is loaded to the first one from the previous episode. So we're going to press enter again. If we go back to the first location, nothing loads because it's going to be a shop that we have a menu for to open. Go back to the second location, nothing loads because we've already fought the battle and presumably won. Go to the third location, get the next battle map, and then the final location for the final battle map. And that's it. As long as you have that working, then you are at the same place as me. Oh, my bad. So I got this crash because I deleted a row inside this CSV, this one here. I forgot the reason that I had it. Wow, this is annoying me now. Okay, so we just need a row of -1s here to stop this crash. The reason it crashed is because the story state is here, but there were no values to check. So I was checking if it was -1, there was nothing there. So you can't have a reel of undefined. That's why we've got the crash. So let's make sure we save it, close it down. Just going to run through the world map quickly again to make sure we don't have a crash. So enter, move, enter, move, enter, move, enter. And if we move around now, there's no crash. So as long as you have this, you are on the same page as me, and you can see our game starting to take shape. So I am looking forward to improving upon this for next time, and I will catch you then. So bye for now.